On this episode of Purposely Curious, I sit down with Stephen Levy Cruz of AFJA, a nonprofit youth soccer organization based in Los Angeles that looks to provide soccer access to children in undeserved communities in Central America. Stephen walks us through how he saw a need to help children through donated youth soccer gear, which they would probably otherwise not be able to afford, and also how this wonderful organization came about. So get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, everyone. Today I have Stephen Levy Cruz, I kind of met him through the internet, but he heads an organization called AFJA, Academia de Fútbol Juvenil Amatense. I hope I said that right. So say hi to everyone, Stephen.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, you said it correctly.
So one of the reasons, the soccer community in the United States, just like it is around the world, tends to be close-knit, especially when you have supporter groups involved. And that's how I kind of caught up with you or saw the organization was through friends' posts. And then I kept seeing you more and more. And, one of my high school friends also, I don't know if you know her, Stephanie from La Pupusa Urban Eatery.
Oh, yeah.
I saw, so you popped up more because then I was like, oh, I'm seeing his organization on soccer stuff and then her stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to be on. But one of the things that resonated with me when I started looking into your organization is that you help underprivileged children you started in El Salvador. And before I ask you, I wanted to tell you that my dad growing up, he's from El Salvador, from Quesaltepeque. And he would always kind of tell us that, he was born poor, his parents had split and he was a really good soccer player. But he never had like money for his gear, so he would play barefoot. And so when I started like looking into your organization, my brother was like, my dad would have benefited from this, like it's a childhood memory that he always shared with us. But as kids growing up in the US, it was almost like we were detached from that memory he had. And so when I was watching videos about your organization and watching these kids, I just saw my father as a child. So to me that I was just like, wow, what you're doing could have changed my dad's childhood, So I wanted to ask you, how did this come about for you?
It's, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on and sharing your platform with us. It's really, behind me is a whole team of people that come together to make this organization what it is today, and not, and also the communities that we serve, parents and everybody's are all really counting on us to get the word out. And every time we do a podcast or an interview, it always seems to lead to connecting with more people that want to help our mission grow. So thanks for doing that. And shout out to Stephanie from La Pupusa Urban Eatery for always putting us out there and connecting us with people.
Yeah.
So back to your question. I mean, it really is similar to what your brother shared with you and what your father shared with you. It's for me personally, I was born here in U.S. and L.A. Born and raised L.A. kid, but every summer I would get sent back to a small little countryside canton called Los Amates in Departamento La Libertad. It's actually not too far from Quetzaltepeque. And every summer I'd go out there and, would play soccer, would run around cutting down mango trees and jocotes and doing all the stuff that Salvi kids do. But what really resonated with me and left an impression on me is the disparity between being a 10-year-old little boy or 10-year-old little girl in El Salvador and what my friends and and primos and stuff, the quality of life that we had here. So from a very young age, I began leaving toys, leaving clothes, just everything behind, and coming back in what we call ginas, right? And sandals and shorts, and just kind of wanting to help my friends and family in El Salvador with whatever I could.
So you were
Um,
leaving your personal items back.
yeah, yeah. I have very vivid memories of my mom being really upset about me leaving like my Vans or skate shoes or whatever, because my cousins would be like, "Get chivo, like how cool are your shoes?" And I would just feel so terrible that they would not even have a pair of shoes sometimes,
Yeah.
or live just different circumstances.
Wow. And so obviously you're doing this year after year when you're visiting. When did you feel the calling to start a nonprofit?
I would have to say in college. I went to USC, and I majored in human biology, but I also did a minor in social entrepreneurship. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in the nonprofit space. I just knew that I wanted to be a bridge of resources here that exist here, and take them to Central America, and take them to places where, the communities that my mom and family are from. So I would say it was really my time kind of learning about how social media and the internet could be such a powerful tool for innovation, in the nonprofit space. Because I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, our parents used to have calling cards.
Yes.
They'd have to buy calling cards just to call back home.
Yes, I
And
remember.
yeah, now I mean WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and all these ways to be connected have really facilitated how we operate.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start getting organized as far as now you're in college and like did you when you were going to El Salvador, were you still taking things or were you like what made you want to really dive in and actually make it an organization?
I think it was a year after I graduated from college. Was in the workforce. I work at Cedar Sinai in health IT, and just had the 9 to 5, had a steady paycheck and everything, but I didn't feel the fulfillment in my life. I didn't feel like I had found purpose. So I began kind of searching and finding ways to support the immigrant community here in LA, or the migrant worker community down in San Diego, and just exploring different existing nonprofits. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Figured out a way to create my own. And it was really in 2017, in the fall of 2017, that I started kind of the framework of what would become AFJA.
Yeah. And so when you actually started organizing people, did you get a lot of like flow as far as people trying to help or like was it hard to get your mission out there initially?
I have to be very honest. I think we've had a lot of luck and just really good timing with when we came onto the scene, I guess you could say. In 2018 was when I think soccer. I think, yeah, it was a World Cup year in Russia. There was just so much going on with soccer, not just in the international world, but here in LA. It just was the perfect summer and blend of conditions for us to be kind of launch our startup.
Okay. And so now that you've launched it, explain to the listeners what it is that AFJA is exactly.
Yeah. I haven't even gotten to that part. Yeah, so I guess for those that don't know, and it's the first time listening to me speak about this, and I'm sure other people that have heard me say this a million times know it by heart now. But really, what we are is a Los Angeles-based nonprofit organization that focuses on recycling youth soccer equipment. We do collect new equipment, but primarily we recycle youth soccer equipment that soccer moms and dads have in their closets or garages from past years and stuff, and it's just kind of collecting dust. And we take that stuff, clean it up, and we open cost-free soccer academies throughout Central America. We started in El Salvador with one academy, and it have grown to 3 countries, going on 4 this summer. And we are in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. And in June, I'll be traveling over to Panama to do some discovery on a couple different communities.
Now, when we talk about these academies, are these like schools or is it just like them after school programs? Because I saw that they have to, in order to be a part, they have to meet like like criterias?
Yeah. So the eligibility requirements that we've maintained from the jump is community service and just a community ownership aspect where we don't necessarily tell the kids what they need to do in their community. We ask them and then provide them with the resources to fulfill that vision. So oftentimes it'll be field cleanup days or community beautification or supporting elderly members of their community with food baskets that they put together, with little bags of frijolitos, or I have a loaf of bread. And it's just really showing them the power of giving, regardless of their circumstances. And then the second requirement would be academic excellence. We do work in partnership with existing schools. We're not a school. We're more, like you said, after school program, more of an extracurricular type of program that is modeled after the existing programs that we, when I say we, it's my whole team, that we all benefited from just by living in LA. I remember Avid. I remember being on a baseball team and what that impact had on my life. Just having a place to make friends and just having a place to just play and having an organized play a factor into academic motivation. So we monitor their grades. We provide them with academic scholarships. We've found very gifted young people in these rural communities that are like just gifted mathematicians, like Fatima, for example. I feel like she's going to be an astronaut or an astrophysicist or something. Like, she's just so uh, bright, and we're helping her get access to education, and she's absolutely great at soccer as well. And then the third one is just really responsibility through attendance. And we like to say on the field, off the field. So we monitor their attendance in the classroom by working with their teachers or school directors to say, hey, like, is so-and-so not showing up to class? Because there's such a high dropout rate at such an early age in these regions, that we're trying to use the game as a motivation for just social change.
That's amazing. I also noticed on your videos that there are a lot of girls that are partaking in these activities. Being that, I guess my question to you, like, you're gonna hate me for this. I've never been to El Salvador,
Mhm.
and everyone thinks it's crazy that I haven't. But is is it weird for the culture out there for their girls to be playing soccer? That's
Uh,
my question to you.
in the last 4 years that we've been in this space, we've seen a lot more emphasis being played on the game and access to the game for women and young women and girls. Uh, it's something that when we first started wasn't the case, and it's definitely, there's different nuances depending on what country and community you're in. For example, in Honduras, oftentimes the girls don't like to wear shorts. Like, they rather play in leggings because they don't feel comfortable. It's not socially acceptable for them to show their legs. And in comparison with El Salvador, it's a little bit more of a higher competitive energy with the girls. Like, we've had three girls recently get called up to a professional team, to the U19 team for Santa Tecla FC, which is a first division team. We also had a goalie from one of our academies join the women's U19 team for El Salvador, the national team.
Wow.
Um, and these are girls from rural, areas that, unless an organization like ours comes and gives them the platform to show their talents and gives them the space to play, they probably wouldn't have these opportunities. So the game, I do have to give credit to different entities in different countries that have really kind of taken on the challenge of expanding the sport, not just for women, but also with special people with special needs, or people with socioeconomic disparities to have access to the game, and it's growing, and it's great to be a part of it.
And is there a waiting list for these kids in these countries to join AFJA or no?
We're quickly learning that we need to continue to grow. We're in the process of obtaining our what's called personalidad jurídica in El Salvador, which basically is an expansion of our nonprofit status here so that we have the structure necessary to keep up with the demand. We did in 2019, I did like a media kind of tour just because I have some family that works in radio and in TV and in El Salvador. And once they got wind of what we were doing with my friends and family, they were like, man, like why aren't we helping you kind of get the word out? So in like 1 month, I was like in La Prensa Gráfica and like all these channels in El Salvador, which really got the word out. And then we started getting emails from all over the place and WhatsApp messages from all over the place. And really, we only have 2 academies right now in El Salvador. And you know, people are like, can I pay you to be a part of AFJA? Can my kid join your? You know, there's that dynamic that exists here, that pay to play dynamic that exists here. But we try to keep it cost free and never kind of put anything behind a paywall.
Wow, that's interesting. Is your goal to expand more, like as far as different other countries than the ones you've spoken of, or obviously you don't want to rush it too much. Obviously, you want to do it right, but with so much attention now, people are probably looking to your organization, and if you have kids going into professional, right?
Yeah.
I feel like your reputation is going to be like, we need to get our kids on that.
Yeah, that's what's starting to happen. Yeah, I mean, when with the question about expansion, it's always tricky. We expanded into Honduras in March of 2020 and had everything ready to go for us to have our 4th academy. It's actually our only all girls academy that we have right now. And everything was really beautiful inauguration, beautiful launch, and then boom, the pandemic hit, and really kind of caused us to reassess how we operate. So we took our program online, which has allowed us to expand our offering to more people. Um, we worked with the Special Olympics Committee here in Southern California and Special Olympics in El Salvador to provide unification carnival where our coaches, uh, along with some LA Galaxy Youth Academy coaches, train the kids over Google Meet and remotely. So that'll just it's about us getting creative and just kind of being very flexible with the times, especially with everything going on right now.
Yeah, and how are I guess some of your students out there do they have access to the internet and computers as much
No.
as out here? So I'm assuming that was a problem.
Oh yeah. So so the pandemic hit in March. Really, that's when it really kind of got crazy for everyone, and obviously we couldn't have in person practice. Everybody's at home, and that one of the things that I like to remind people of is these kids are living in a drastically different situation than what we are. We have the luxuries of Wi-Fi, Netflix, and Postmates, or whatever you need to really, if you're stuck at home, it's really just kind of an annoyance more than a burden. But with our kids, like we have kids that the dropout rates in our communities were so high just because they couldn't access classes, online classes or remote learning. Um, so what we did early on in May of 2020, we launched AFJA Online. What we did is we bought a bunch of used cell phones, put some data plans, and leveraged existing cell phone connections to get these kids connected. So for the first time, we had kids from Guatemala, from El Salvador, Honduras, all connected on one single platform. And then the coaches, we all had weekly meetings where they would rotate and had curriculum on what we were going to talk about. It was so beautiful that we had a psychologist from Argentina speak to the team. We had professional soccer players from both the women's side and men's side be special guests. And every week it was like a new surprise of what was going to be on AFJA Online, which really helped our kids because those same smart phone devices allowed them to reconnect with their school and receive their regular academic curriculums and things like that. So, like I said, it's really just being flexible and creative with solutions.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys did a really good pivot there.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to get all these phones, I mean, that just shows you a community that cares. So what else does the organization do outside of, the kids? I see that you're always fundraising.
Mhm.
Um, and I also noticed that you were the 2019 MLS Community MVP.
Yeah, so a big shout out to MLS Works and Wells Fargo for being the sponsors of our first kind of grant. That contest was really won. It's a popularity contest. They put up nonprofit organizations and people basically to compete for votes online. We were nominated by LAFC, but it was really the LA Galaxy community that came out and voted and got mobilized to make sure that we won. Despite us being nominated for their rival, they really were so connected with our mission that they really went to bat for us. The Angel City Brigade, LA Riot Squad, Galaxians, all those supporter groups for the Galaxy, the Outlaws, all of them really, really came out and voted on top of the kind of online Central American community, La Pupusa, and all these other personalities online just all came together to make sure that I won. And that came with our first $25,000 grant in the fall of 2019. So that really set the stage for us to be able to, I think, survive the pandemic. Was to have the funds and the creativity to outmaneuver everything that the year brought with it. And to answer your original question, as far as what we do outside of soccer, last year we got together with a bunch of creatives, creators, and just personalities to give storm relief to El Salvador through an organization called El Salvador Es por Vos, a Salvadoran-based organization of people that were getting food baskets to rural communities that were hit really hard by Hurricane Ada. And Central America is so small and connected that if one country is hit, it's more than likely that the neighbor countries also were hit. So we basically leveraged our logistics, our existing coaches, and team parents and things like that to get food baskets to people in need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, academic scholarships. Yeah, it's kind of a a place right now where we're getting back into a regularly scheduled program, which is
Hmm.
soccer and that kind of stuff. But we definitely had a lot of pivots last year.
Yeah. And then I also noticed, well, we're recording this today on Friday, May 14th, but you have one fundraiser that you're having people drop off letters, I've noticed, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing?
Yes, yes. So this is a collaboration with Angel City Brigade and all other supporter groups for the LA Galaxy, as well as one of the moms from the players, Jalen Neal's mother, is collecting letters, and we're collecting youth soccer equipment, bilingual children's books, like little arts and crafts kits, anything to support the kids that are currently being, I guess, held at the Long Beach Convention Center in Pomona. They are unaccompanied minors from diverse backgrounds. They're not all Central American. Like there's a group of kids that are actually from India, and they are of the Sikh religion. And we've been asked to find turbans for them. So I've
Oh,
been on the lookout for turbans, youth-sized turbans, and just being culturally competent of the stuff that we collect as well. Because I don't know about that. I don't, it's not something that I'm close enough to understand the difference between different turbines, or what the best way to support those kids is. So we are leveraging again our existing logistics to support kids here. We've been working on a domestic program for a few months now within the state of Oregon, and that kind of fell through with the state of Oregon to support the unaccompanied minors over there. And then out of left field comes right into our backyard here in Long Beach to support kids here. So we're stepping up to the plate for that.
Yeah, that's very honorable, I must say. It sounds like you guys, the snowball effect is just
Mhm.
going down the hill and you guys are just expanding. And I mean, it's amazing. My hat goes off to you. How big is your organization as far as the people, you and your people? Like, how has it
Yeah,
grown?
it's definitely not something I could do alone. I have a wonderful fiance, Kelly, who supports me through everything, and she actually runs our social media. She's really creative on that front. I have my really good friends, Farley, who's the program director for Honduras. We have people all the way in New York. Shout out Diana if you're listening. She's always representing out in New York and finding creative ways to get us more visibility, and we have an amazing team of people of diverse backgrounds. We're not all Central American. My CFO is my one of my best friends, Gabriel. He's out in Austin, Texas, and we just come together every second Tuesday of the month to have our board meetings and kind of program management and just kind of look at uh, the reports that each coach sends us and see where their needs are, where they're excelling in, what areas of improvement there are, and this is all something we do kind of after hours and after we get home, but from work, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I find a lot of fulfillment in the work that we do, and I genuinely feel like I've found the purpose in my life.
Yeah, and you sound very passionate. I'm amazed by the work that you guys do. And like I said, I've seen your organization, but I feel like I'm seeing you guys more, so I think it's a good thing. And so I would want to be able to help myself. And so if people want to help and reach out, where can they find you as far as to get more information? Or is Instagram like where people can see like your updated like fundraisers, or is it all on your website?
I would say that our social media channels are probably the more up to date with regards to what's coming up next, especially Instagram, just because it's a really strong visual tool for us to connect people with our work. But we do have our website, la2la.org. That's LA, the number two, la.org, where you can read our stories page. That has a whole series coming up of updates on what we've been able to do since 2020, and it's also where our donation page is, so you can donate any kind of funds that you'd like. We have gifts for donations for people that want to rep AFJA swag, drawstring
Nice.
bag, and all kinds of stuff like that is all on la2la.org. And then on social media, you could find us on Instagram at afja.es and Twitter afjaes.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to be on my podcast. I'm very, very proud of you. Even though,
Thank you.
it's to me, I've always, like I said, I heard my dad's childhood stories, and to see someone see that need as a kid, and then just not just see the need, but actually act on it as an adult, and then to see you flourish and getting more people involved. I think sometimes us being like first generation kids of immigrant parents, we get used to our lives in the US, and we forget, right, that maybe where our parents came from, the situation for some might not be as good as others. And so to me, that you followed through, that you saw this need and you made it happen, to me is very honorable. And like I said, that's amazing, and I'm so glad that you allowed me time to interview you so that we can get more of this message out. And maybe this could inspire someone out there in the world to maybe say, I should do that for my country, or because
Yeah.
it's a soccer is a world sport that people love, and so maybe you can be the inspiration for someone in another country to maybe do the same, you know.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much for sharing, like I said, your platform and your listeners, and hopefully they enjoy reading more about our work. We always look for volunteers at donation drives. Now with things clearing up a little bit and we're able to have in-person events a little bit more, definitely hope to see you at an event or a volunteer event. Or we have our contact form as well. If anybody out there has a basket of old soccer cleats or soccer balls, we could use them. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.
That was episode 58 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on most podcast platforms. And follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely C Pod on Twitter. That's Purposely, the letter C, Pod. Until next time, you know what to do.